Hi, this is Lady Lecture UK and this is a Dreams tutorial. I'm working my way through my tutorial list that I've got from your comments, and somebody asked me about making fire effects. Now, I'm not a person that's made an awful lot of visual effects in Dreams. It's not an area that I've really gone into in any detail. And if I wanted a fire effect, my first port of call is probably going to be going into the Dreamverse, typing fire in and finding a nice collection of fire effects and using one of these. This is a nice collection by Zaki Tay. Fireplaces, campfires, single flames. These have all been made for you to use. There's one from Ed Hargreaves. It's got particle effects and all sorts of things going on. There we are. So if you're not up for making your own special effects and you're not particularly good at it, there are tons of Dreamverse effects that you can use. Let's just turn that back off. But we are going to have a go at making some. Now, I've learned everything about doing this from a tutorial by John Beach as part of a live stream when he talked about his beach pool level. He did show us how he made his fireplace and the fire and the flames. If you go to dreamschool.co.uk, type in fire into the search, it's the first video that comes up, and I've timestamped it so that you get straight into the fireplace build part, and he'll show you how to do really interesting looking soot, smoke, flames, glowing logs and all that. He uses motion controllers, so the instructions I'm going to give you now are slightly different to his, only because I'm using a DS4. But let's get into it. Now, I've tried this a few times, and sometimes I get really good flames, and other times not so good. And it really does depend on your initial drawing and the settings that you put in. And so sometimes I'll get a really good flame, and other times I won't. Like I say, I'm not particularly great at this, but it's a lot of trial and error when you're doing some of these special effects, just tweaking the menus about a bit and getting the look that you want. So it is a paint effect. So I'm going to go into paint. I'm going to pick a nice orange and I'm going to use draw flecks. So we're going to get a nice big fleck. Now, in the video, John Beach talks about using the R2 button and how far you're pressing it down and all sorts of things. That's not how I'm going to show you. What you do is you press down on the X button, and as you get to the end of your stroke, you carry on pressing the D pad down, and that will reduce the size of your stroke, and that way you get this nice flame effect. Now, I'm doing my best to do this effect. I'm not very good at this. Like I say, this is not something I've done very much of. But anyway, there's our flames. And I've come out of paint mode. Now I'm going to go into its tweak menu. So it's L1 and square. And I'm going to put some glow on. So now we've got some very flat painted flames. Nothing's animated at the moment. I press down on the R3. Nothing's happening. That's turned on. And now we can see the animation starting. So first thing to do is to put the playback speed up. And you can see our flames starting to move. Then we go into stroke properties, and if we reduce down the fleck density, you start to see the flames moving up like a flame would. We've got squares at the moment, which isn't the right thing, so we're going to go into style mode. So I press square and then go into style mode, and then I'm going to choose a new fleck. Now this is I'm going to stop the animation so that it's easier to see what I'm doing. I think John used this one. So R2, and he got this effect. which is interesting. And then I'm going to go into Fleck Properties, and I'm going to change the looseness of my fleck. And I'm also going to get rid of the ruffle. I'm not sure whether the impasto makes much of a difference. No, it doesn't really. I'm not sure I like that. Let's go back in and change this. There we go. I'm going to go with that, I think, for my flame. So then we're going to go into the effects. Evaporate is a good one to use. So you just fiddle about with these, see what effects you can get. Android animation is interesting. I'm going to leave that one off though. I'm also going to put fade in and fade out. And I'm going to up the fleck density. So John had it really low, but I think it's better for a flame effect if it's really high, which is interesting. So now I've got some flames. And I don't think that's too bad. That's okay. Now, one of the techniques that John used is he used an action recorder to grab his flame and move it around. But like so. I've forgotten to put jet on, so let's put the jet trail on. That way we're going to get some weird movement. So that, and then you've made it smaller and bigger, up and down with the D-pad. It's much easier to do some of these effects with motion controller from their tutorials. But anyway, there we go. Where's some flames? That's not looking too bad. I don't think that's too bad at all. Right, okay. So we go back into its menu, and I can up this quite a bit, put on some scale jitter, and now we really have a flame. I think we need to lower the glow like this. We can alter the colour. And you could also, using the action controller, do this sort of thing, and that will give you some interesting effects with the like this. So if I put down another action controller and then just fiddle about with that, then we get some really interesting flamey effects. There we go, everything's moving around. I don't think that's too bad as a flame effect. Like I say, fiddle about with all of the settings. Fiddle about with these, fiddle about with the speed. You've got a time offset, which is to do with as if you've got a clone so that they're not acting at the same. I think. No, they're all. Yes, because we've got a timer on it. Anyway. That's it. There's your flame. That's the effect. You just need to play about with it and animate it, move it around, change the size of it, fiddle about with all of these settings, the amount of copies that you put in, the scale jitter, moving these things about, getting the fire at a different position. Here's an interesting one. Whoa, My camera's on fire. There we are. So that's good for an explosion, for example. There's lots of things you can do with this. You just need to experiment around with it. Okay then, thank you for watching, and I hope that was helpful for you, and I'll catch you in your dreams.